very strange and controversial topic is that of psychics and prophets. The idea that somebody has mental and spiritual connections or abilities involving the supernatural is a concept that mystifies those who believe and is completely ridiculous to those who don't. Regardless of how you view the subject, there have been some pretty interesting documented cases of predictions and prophecies that have actually come true. Whether those were just a stroke of luck by those who made them, or a real case of future sight, these stories are very mysterious and intriguing to take a look at. Baba Vanga was a Bulgarian mystic, clairvoyant, and herbologist who was born on January 31st, 1911, and died on August 11th, 1996. She lived a pretty normal childhood, except her mother died when she was young, and her father was drafted into the Bulgarian military, which left her dependent on neighbors and family friends, as well as leaving her very poor. According to Vanga, when she was young, a tornado allegedly lifted her into the air and threw her into a field nearby. After a long search, she was found very frightened and her eyes were covered with sand and dust, and she was unable to open them. With little money for an operation to heal her injuries, only a partial operation was done, which resulted in a gradual loss of sight over the years. As she grew older, she was said to have the ability to heal others as well as to see future events. She made interesting predictions that seemed to correlate with actual events. From the prediction of an African American as the 44th President of the United States, to the oddly accurate prediction she made in 1989 of the attacks on the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001, stating, "The American brothers will fall after being attacked by steel birds. The wolves will be howling in a bush, and innocent blood will be gushing." The steel birds attacking the American brothers apparently refers to the planes that struck the Twin Towers, as well as the statement of wolves in a bush could relate to George W. Bush, who was president at the time of the attacks. One of the more strange prophecies made by Baba Vanga was in August of 1976. Yugoslav actress and singer Silvana Armanulik was on tour in Bulgaria and decided to meet with Vanga. Vanga only sat and stared out a window with her back to Silvana, never speaking to her. After a long time, Vanga finally said, "I do not want to speak with you, not now. Go and come back in 3 months." As Silvana turned around and walked towards the door, Vanga said, "Wait. In fact, you will not be able to come. Go, go. If you can come back in 3 months, do so." Silvana took this as confirmation that she would die in the next 3 months and left Vanga's home in tears. Silvana died 2 months later on October 10th, 1976, in a car crash with her sister Mirhana. So, were all the mysteries surrounding Baba Vanga and her predictions all just a coincidence, or something more? A large ocean liner sailing in the North Atlantic strikes an iceberg and sinks to the bottom of the ocean. You've heard this before, correct? Well, I'm not referring to the tragedy that took place in 1912 when the Titanic sank. What I'm referring to is the plot of a novel written and published in 1898, 14 years prior, and before the Titanic was even conceptualized. Written by author Morgan Robertson, this fictional novel focuses on an 800-foot British ocean liner that he calls Titan, which sinks in the North Atlantic in the month of April after striking an iceberg. Now, this does seem to bear an uncanny resemblance to true events that took place. On April 15, 1912, when an 882-foot British ocean liner called Titanic was sailing in the North Atlantic Ocean, where it struck an iceberg and sank to the bottom of the ocean, claiming many lives. From there, the similarities continue. Robertson writes that the Titan did not have enough lifeboats for all on board, while the Titanic also had too few lifeboats to save everyone. After people began to notice how eerily similar Robertson's book was to the actual event 14 years later, many began to credit him with psychic abilities as well as clairvoyance. He denied such claims and seemed to believe that it was all a crazy coincidence. Many scholars believe that his extensive knowledge of shipbuilding and maritime trends played into the creation of this novel, and how similar to a real tragedy it turned out to be. Still, there are those who continue to hold the belief that he had to have known somehow, and that there are too many similarities to the Titanic for it all to have been accidentally written that way. What do you think? Michel de Nostradame was a 16th century French astrologer, physician, and prognosticator. He's better known around the world today as Nostradamus. Nostradamus has been credited for his many prophecies detailing future events, such as the Great Fire of London, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombs, and he is even said to have predicted his own death in July of 1566. On the evening of July 1st, he is alleged to have told his secretary, "You will not find me alive at sunrise." The next morning, he was reportedly found laying dead on the floor next to his bed. He kept a book titled The Prophecies, which was a compilation of his predictions of the future. Most of his writings were very cryptic and are open to interpretation, which could explain how maybe some of his vague prophecies could correlate with real events later on. However, one of the more detailed prophecies describes the rise to power of Adolf Hitler in Germany in 1933. The prophecy reads, "From the depths of the west of Europe, a young child will be born of poor people. He who by his tongue will seduce a great troop. His fame will increase towards the realm of the east. Also, beasts ferocious with hunger will cross the rivers. The greater part of the battlefield will be against Hister. Into a cage of iron will the great one be drawn, when the child of Germany observes nothing." Hitler was born in Austria in 1889, which is Western Europe. Though his family was middle class, not impoverished, as stated in the prophecy, he did in fact, however, rise to power mostly by his speaking abilities, as well as initiating a great troop by invading Poland, causing World War II. The prophecy also makes mention of the word Hister, which many have interpreted as a misspelling of Hitler, while others think is nothing more than a reference to the Danube River, as Hister is coincidentally a Latin term for it. Obviously, Adolf Hitler's rise to power, as well as the horrendous tragedies and genocide suffered by Jewish people around Europe during his reign of terror, was a major and shocking event in history. So did Nostradamus see it all coming? Or was this just a series of random writings that just so happened to line up with a major historical event some 400 years later? Decide for yourself. The strange story of a man named Edgar Cayce, also known as the Sleeping Prophet, first began when he was a young child. He claimed to see spirits all around him, as well as being able to communicate with his dead grandfather. The true strangeness began in 1889, however, when 12-year-old Cayce recounted a visit from a winged woman who promised to answer his prayers. Cayce struggled in school and had difficulty focusing on his schoolwork. Coincidentally, the day after he saw the winged woman, he received an unsatisfactory report from his teacher about poor spelling. His father became frustrated with him and knocked him out of his chair while testing his spelling abilities. In this moment, Case claimed to hear the voice of the woman telling him to fall asleep for a while so that they could help him. He pleaded with his father for a quick nap before placing his head on the spelling book and fell asleep. His father later woke him up, and to his amazement, Edgar had mysteriously memorized every page of the spelling book that was placed under his head as he slept. Case repeated this process with many other school books, and he quickly became the best student in class. The act of sleeping on top of his books caused him to retain all of the information inside, which earned him the name the Sleeping Prophet. Over time, a new talent emerged during his sleep, which was being able to provide people with a full medical diagnosis while he slept. The first time he did this was after he was hit in the spine with a ball during a school game. After going to bed, his parents heard him talking in his sleep, diagnosing his condition and detailing how to cure it. His parents then followed the instructions, and soon after, Case was allegedly healed. As he grew older, he gave more than 14,000 psychic readings, some of which were given to celebrities such as Harry Houdini, Thomas Edison, Woodrow Wilson, and Marilyn Monroe. These readings covered a wide variety of topics, including personal matters and health conditions. He also claimed to have the ability to foretell events. He spoke at length about the Dead Sea Scrolls, even though they weren't discovered until 1947, 2 years after Case died. He also seemed to predict World War II in 1935, describing an alliance between Germans, Austrians, and the Japanese, though this alliance would not come to light until the Tripartite Pact signing on September 27, 1940. One of the more mysterious things he seemed to foretell was the rediscovery of the underwater city of Atlantis. In 1968, archaeologists discovered an underwater rock formation off the coast of the Bahamian island of North Bimini. The formation sits 18 feet below the surface. Some hypothesize it marks the submerged city's entrance, while some are still unsure. So was this winged woman some sort of angel or other spirit, giving Edgar Case these incredible supernatural abilities? Or was it all some sort of hoax?